Hey, it's Jamie, and welcome to Where's My Yowie. Today we've got a special guest with us, Kev, and Kev's going to tell us some stories of his encounters with Yowie. So over to you, Kev.
All right, thanks, Jamie. Mate, the one that goes back the furthest was when a group of us were camping up at Jimna in the campground there, and I had put my tent up slightly into the scrub. As the crow flies, it was probably only 15, 20 metres back to the open ground, but if you went down the track, it was about 80, 100 metres probably to where I had my tent, and I'd done that mainly for privacy. And when time came for me and my lady to go turn in for the night, it was getting on. It was about 2ish. We walked down the track. As we're walking down the track, we could hear movement off to our left, and she was sort of clutching on my arm, going, what's that? What the hell's that? And I said, look, don't freak out. It's probably just a deer. Maybe it's a pig. Who knows, And anyway, we get down to the tent and we get inside, and we're in there for only a minute or two, and we could hear stomping around outside, and it was sort of coming a bit closer. So she was freaking out, and I said, don't worry, I'll take you back up the top and we'll get you set up with one of the families. I'm sure someone will let you stay in their tent. So I got my flashlight out and I'm shining the torch around. I called out because we had a couple of pranksters that would prank you over anything. And I thought, it's those bastards pranking me. So, I called out, look, it's all right, we're on to you, don't worry about it. And I got her out and started walking her back up to the campsite, and same thing, getting paralleled along in the bush. If we stopped, it would stop. Now, it's interesting to note, I had more of a think about this. There was no odour or anything, as other people might sometimes say. There was just this noise.
Right.
And so we get back up there, and I ask a family that was with us, is it okay if Leslie stays in your tent, because she's freaking out. There's a pig or something wandering around out in the bush and she's freaking out. Yeah, no worries. So that was all organised. She had her sleeping bag. In she goes. And I start walking back down and get the same thing happening. While I was up there, I happened to notice that the two prankers were up sitting around the fire, still sort of drinking. And they were pretty well on it. I don't think they would have been able to walk down there and back, to be honest. Certainly not through the bush. So I'm walking back down there, hearing the same bloody noises. So I stopped and I picked up a stout bit of timber, bit of wood that was laying there. And I called out, listen, I've had you bastards, come out here and I'll give you a good bloody flogging with this club, nothing. And because the other thing I thought was it could be just some random idiot out in the bush, looking to steal, or who knows. Yep. So I get back to the, although how they would have seen without a torch, I don't know. I get back to my tent and I get in there. And I'm just settling, I've got my club. I'm just settling down in there again, and I hear something moving through the undergrowth coming towards the tent, and I was laying in there and I thought, if it's those bastards are sneaking up around here, I'm going to get out there and give them a going, Anyway, I called out, listen, I've had enough of you bastards. Piss off, I'm coming out with my club and you're both going to get a damn good clubbing. I unzipped the tent, got the torch going, unzipped the tent and went out, nothing. no one there. I thought, nah. So I sort of did actually go back most of the way back to the fire, but I could hear them. And I thought, well, it's not them. So I just turned around and went back down to the tent, tried to put it out of my mind. And after a while, I went to sleep. So I did hear a few other odd noises as things went on. But as I say, I didn't smell anything. I didn't really see anything.
Were
But
you fearful at all or anything like that?
was I, sorry?
Fearful. Were you worried, sort of thing?
No, mate, because I'm a fairly hefty
Yep.
sort of fella. And I had myself a pretty stout club, and I was reasonably confident that I could take on most things.
Yep.
And in the past I'd tangled with, a couple of guys at a time, and I found having a stout stick will give you a fairly good evener,
Yep, exactly.
And so I just sort of left it at that. And I came back up in the morning, and she says to me, how did you go? Did you sleep? And I said, yeah. I said, no problem. I said, it's just a deer or a pig or something else that'll move around a bit at night,
Yeah.
But it was odd in my mind, in the back of my mind.
Yeah, but you know yourself, it wasn't a deer because you could hear the footsteps. It was footsteps. It wasn't an animal, so to speak.
Yeah, but you do try to kind of minimise the terror factor, mate. So I was concerned enough to have a club.
Yep.
I wouldn't say I was, afraid as such, because I knew that it doesn't matter what it was. If it got a good smack in the head with a stout bit of timber, it's likely to piss off, you know. But the thing that I started thinking about the stopping when I stopped, and the moving on again when I moved on again.
Yep.
And from subsequently watching, mainly Bigfoot.
Yep.
Thing,
They all do it, eh?
They shadow people apparently.
Yep.
And it made me think. After that, I started to think, well, maybe these yowies that everyone's been pulling my leg about are real, because that was 20 years ago, mate.
Yep.
And I was, and people used to tell you about yowies, but I didn't really, I was pretty sure they were just pulling my leg.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
As people do,
Yep.
And so the next one, if we're going to go chronologically,
Okay.
was the one that I related to. I've got a bit of a theory which I've picked up off these other sites, is that once you've had an experience, you can become a little bit sensitized towards them. And I think if they understand that you're not, I don't know how they understand, but if they understand you're not going to take a pot shot at them or something, I think they're probably more likely to.
I agree with that.
Sorry?
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I think they know there's been reports of aggressive ones, but you know what people are like, mate. They'll fucking shoot
You're right.
They'll shoot anything.
Yep.
Out on the land, I was going to get to later, we've had people go out there and shoot trees.
Yeah.
And keep shooting them till the tree falls over, God.
Yeah.
And but the next one chronologically was the one I've related on Dean's.
Yeah, well, we'll skip that one because that belongs to Dean, that story.
Yeah, but I'm just going through these ones.
Yeah.
Because I think there's at least 4 times, and that was the second one. Third time was Flagstone Creek Road, going up from in between Grantham and Halidon. There's a road that goes off to your left, and it goes up, comes out sort of the southeast end of Toowoomba. And I was about 2/3 of the way along there, and on my left, I caught a glimpse of something moving. It's a bit of a tricky road. You can't really take your eyes off the road for too long. I quickly looked over that way, and just as I looked over, there was something bending. There was quite tall grass. It would probably come up mid-stomach or maybe even to my chest, that dry grass that you see after,
Yep.
and there was just the bum end sticking up. And again, I tried to tell myself, oh, it's just a big grey kangaroo, but it didn't have a tail.
Right.
And I've been thinking about it. It had no tail, and it was broad across the butt, like, seriously broad. And if it was sort of half squatting down, must have been bloody big, mate, because the grass was so tall and its butt stuck up about best part of a foot, I would say,
Wow.
of the grass. Oh yeah, I'd say it was one of the 10 to 12 footers.
Right.
If it was a yowie, I mean, I don't know. It could have been
Yeah,
someone
but I
else.
mean, it's what else would it be in the fact that?
What else would it be, mate? And I tried thinking of, was it a horse? Was it this? But horses don't go down on their front elbows kind of thing and leave their bums sticking up in the air in grass that long.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, I think it heard me coming along, and it just went to ground essentially, and so I actually did go up to where the road was a bit wider and turn around and go back. Nothing.
Right.
I noticed I used to go up and down that road quite a bit because it brings you out. You didn't have to drive through Toowoomba, and it used to bring me out where I wanted to be. And I noticed that the fellow this was only 80 or 100 metres away from a house and a barn. And I noticed on subsequent trips up and down there at night that he had spotlights on the corners of his barn and spotlights on the corners of his house. And it made me wonder if he didn't have bumps in the night.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. Yeah. Well, if you
anyway,
don't want them around, that's the way to get rid of them.
yeah, well, he's a hobby farmer, mate. He seems to get, that particular fellow gets, buys in bobby calves and what have you and fattens them up.
Yep.
And goats, I've seen goats there. Anyway, that was the second one. If you're not, if we're skipping.
Yeah. Well, we'll just mention though with Dean, you did a report for Australian Yowie hunters at Waluga,
Yes,
and
yes,
yeah, it's on the it's on the YouTube channel, Yowie
yes.
Hunters.
It's actually on ours. It's on the Queensland Yowie research. Dean put a comment up and put a link.
Yeah, I actually read that. Yes.
Yes, he seems like a very good fellow. He's been threatening to buy me a beer, so I'll take him up on that.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I would suggest is probably, again, Yowie related, is a mate of mine's got just under 700 acres out near the Glenrocks National Park out the back of Laidley. And he's got the hill, and it's very densely bushed. I think it probably 100 years ago they may have gone through there for the sawmills, but essentially it's pretty thick bush.
Yep.
Well, it's good trees, standing trees, and a lot of scrub and what have you, right? And there's a couple of places where water bubbles up as well, so it's fairly green, and kangaroos and what have you. And he does the same thing. He'll buy in, um, um, bobby calves and fatten them up.
Yep.
And but we had a container we'd sort of organised, there was about 4 or 5 of us, and we got a container and had it basically dragged it up there with a D9 up to the top, and got some iron and rigged up on the top, and rigged it up so that we could catch some rainfall into a 1,000-litre tank.
Right.
So we didn't have to carry water. And once or twice that we went up there, the tank would be just sort of thrown halfway down the bloody hill. And we was thinking, you know, local kids, we
Yep.
get our hands on these. But another mate of mine, Steve, he looked at it and he said, mate, you'd need 3 football teams to carry 1,000 litres over there, so where they can.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing.
You know, he says, you know, so we we made the decision then that it probably wasn't the local kids. So anyway, my lady, she used to get this, you know, spooked up there, and we were organising to go up there one time. She said, "Oh, I'm not going." I said, "Oh, really?" She said, "Yeah, I'm not." She said, "There's something up there." And
Yep.
this land connects with a whole lot of other, you know, probably hundreds of thousands of acres by the time, you know, they might have to cross a mile of open cow country or something. But if you're at night, who's going to see them?
Yeah.
And anyway, so the last time she'd been up there, we'd both seen, well, actually about 4 of us had all seen, we could hear something moving around about a fair bit off, let's say, probably 50 metres from where we were. We had a fire going in a drum, and we could sort of, it was moonlit night, we could sort of see like a big darkness moving through the other darkness.
Yep.
And not fully formed. You couldn't really say, oh, it's a man shape, but it certainly, it wasn't a cattle beast or anything. It wasn't a horse. Too tall,
Right.
far too tall, and the wrong shape shadow.
Yeah.
And after she saw that, that was it. You know, that night I had to go out, so she wanted to go to the toilet, which we had in a, you know, a separate little bit, because we had the container and we used to put ATVs and trail bikes and stuff and lock them up.
Mm-hmm.
And when we went up there, I just had one of those fold-out camp beds, and I had one for me, one for her. Well, actually, most of them had something similar, or a swag, and we'd just camp in, you know, we'd just open the door and camp in there. And she wanted to go to the toilet, and she woke me up. She said, you know, you're going to have to come out and, while I go to the toilet. And I'm going, mate, you know, not particularly that keen to get torn limb from limb.
Yeah.
And so we had a couple of weapons up there. So I picked up pump action shotty and emptied it out and loaded it up, put 5 solids in it. And I thought, there's nothing on this planet that could survive 2 or 3 of these.
Yep.
Even if you didn't kill it, if you got it in the leg or something, it's going to stop charging, you know.
Yeah.
So I had to stand guard, mate, while she went to the toilet. And the second we got out that we exited that, there was movement off in the bush, probably only 10 metres away, if that.
Wow.
Yeah, I think he used to come up and squat there and just, I think, curiosity to a degree, because other people up there live in houses, mate.
Yeah.
And I think he used to come in. I'd say it was a male, judging by the size of the shape.
How tall do you reckon that shape was?
Well, again, it was at night. Didn't really have that much. It never occurred to me to go out the next morning and stand by the trees
Yeah, right.
and get, how much bigger than me was it? That's what I'd do now.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be shocked if he was a 9 or 10 footer.
Wow.
And again, real built like a double fridge, except taller, And every now and then Nigel would, can you blot that out? Every now and then one of these calves or something would go missing, and you'd never seem to find them.
Wow.
You wouldn't find the remains. Just he might have, because it was quite lush, and compared to most of the other ground, because it had water, I think he would possibly at times he would have 100 or 120 young beasts on the land, and because they'll eat anything green.
Yep.
And every now and then he might lose one, but he didn't sort of get his nose out of joint about it. He just thought, I don't know if he thought it was locals or something like that, but he had the people from the pony club had approached him and asked him, was it okay to take their learners up through his land? Because you could go up through his land and go out onto public trails in the park.
Yep.
Rather than take them along the roads.
Yeah.
So he used to allow that. And anyway, at the end of the day, we had a few odd things go on up there, and my partner just said, look, don't even bother asking me because I won't be going.
Well, if I was with you, I wouldn't be going either.
Sorry?
If I was with you, I wouldn't be going either.
Yeah, well, mate, we were, how old was I? 90. I would have been in my early 40s, so I was still, young enough to be stupid about it,
Yeah.
and but I wouldn't have gone up there by myself, mate.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gone up there and camped up there by myself, that's for sure. Because it had put enough of a fright into me that I just thought, there's something going on here. The other thing, Jamie, it didn't show up. This beastie didn't show up every time.
Yeah.
It would just every now and then.
Yep.
And we were talking about it, and we all came to the conclusion that we didn't really know what it was, but it might have been migratory.
Right.
It maybe moved, through there.
Yeah. Well, the one that visited me only visited me in wintertime at the sort of thing, in the colder months only.
And where was that?
At Lempenwood in northern
yeah.
New South Wales. Yeah.
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 Yeah,
So
well, my mate, another one of my mates, he was based in around Woodinbong on a rural property, and he reckoned that the cocky that he worked for was a firm believer, mate, that there was, beasties in the woods.
Yep.
And I said to him, brother, what do you think? And he said, I think he's a very down to earth fellow, and I wouldn't argue with him about it.
Right.
Yeah. When I told him about my sighting, he just said, oh, mate, it was a kangaroo. I said, it's the exact opposite shape.
Yeah.
Kangaroos are thick at the bottom, narrow at the top.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, some people are strange like that.
Yeah, well, it's like we were saying, unless they actually see one, they won't believe. And if they do see one, they're idiots, and they'll try and like they won't like. I tried to rationalise it too,
Yeah, I know what you
but
mean. I
at
did the
the end of
same.
the day, we had to go back to, well, I know what I saw. It's what I saw is what I saw.
Yeah.
And no point in trying to rationalise it away.
No.
I mean, I heard that Dr. Carl on Triple J, someone rang up and said on a Thursday, someone rang up and said, you know, what about these Yowies and Bigfoot? And he just completely poo-pooed it.
Right.
Oh, the people that see them, they're all high on drugs and they're all moonshiners and they're all this and they're all that. And I was outraged, mate. If I'd have been close enough in Adelaide, I would have ridden my bike down and stood outside the thing and jogged him when he came out.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because that's just arrogance, mate.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh, science doesn't know about it. Well,
They
science
don't want to
doesn't know
recognise
about
it.
almost everything, eh?
Yeah. They don't want to recognise it. They'd have to rewrite all the books and everything
Yeah,
else. Yep.
exactly. And, you know, I mean, I had a lot of respect for Carl up until then because he has got a huge general knowledge. And then I just thought, you dickhead. You know,
Yeah.
you haven't seen one, so therefore they don't exist.
Yep, there's a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, mate, it's like I've got a different story, not about hearing men. Back in 1981, me and a mate of mine, we'd been, there was about five or six different bikes or Harleys, and we were at a billabong west of Howard up in sort of central Queensland.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was like a dry gum area. You wouldn't call it rainforest, that's for sure. Anyway, in the morning, Bird and I decided we'd get an early start, and we're coming down a dirt road, and coming back towards the highway, we saw something moving about 15, 20 feet out into this paddock on our left. And we stopped, and out came this goanna, mate. Now, I'm not trying to blow steam up your skirt, but if this thing wasn't like 7 or 8 feet long,
Yeah. Yep.
easy.
Yeah.
And it was rounder than a copper's log. And it came out, and as it came out, because our Harleys are sitting on the road throbbing, and it probably felt the vibration, probably heard them. It just turned its head and looked at us, and just walked straight out across the road, and just kept going and disappeared into the long grass on the right. And Bird looks at me and goes, "What the F was that?"
Hmm.
And I said, "That's a goanna, mate." I said, "But I didn't think they grew that big anymore."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, that was a big one." And he'd crossed an open field. I know the smaller ones are a bit weary of eagles and things like that.
Yeah, but when you're that big, nothing scares you.
Well, I'm pretty keen didn't come and try and cuddle up with me while I was sleeping tonight, mate.
Yeah.
But I honestly didn't think that they were still getting that big, mate. I just didn't think them. So it just shows you, like that was on a cockie's land.
Yep.
And I bet no one else had ever seen him.
Probably not.
It was just that we were there when he was moving. For whatever reason, he was on the move.
Yeah. Okay, Kev. Well, thanks very much for telling your story. It's been
You're right, my friend.
It's been a pleasure listening to your stories. And
Yep.
if you have any more, please contact me again.
No worries.
I'll get back to everyone next time. Okay, bye.
All
Hang on,
right,
Kev.
mate. See ya.
Yeah, okay, bye.